This is Learning the Ropes. Learning the Ropes. Presented by Costen and Hammer Productions. Now, on to the show with your host, Josh Hammer.
Welcome, everybody, to Learning the Ropes, a podcast that uses the game of baseball as a vehicle to learn about a variety of other topics to improve personal development and to better understand the perspectives of those around us. That being said, today we have an absolute treat. Not only do I have my co-host, Tobin Costen, filmmaker, co-founder of Costen Hammer Productions, chief growth officer of Psycho Beverages, just to name a few, but we also have a notable guest with us today, former NFL offensive lineman. Oh, yeah, we're digging in the trenches. We're talking about grit. We're talking about getting after it with the Cincinnati Bengals and Pittsburgh Steelers offensive lineman, bringing it to you, bringing the heat. He has been inducted into the University of Utah Athletics Hall of Fame with, likes of names of Andrew Bogut and Alex Smith, but they don't matter to us today. No, not at all. So without any further ado, we want to bring Tony Brown to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me. And like you said, man, it's a great honor. I'm excited. I just got the call about a week ago. And immediately told everybody, put it out there. My buddy right there, TC, put it out there. And I've been getting hit up, texts and phone calls and congratulations, and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm excited.
Dang, I feel like we just made the Hall of Fame just by you saying that.
We're in the Hall of Fame because everybody's a Hall of Famer, baby. We're just giving it away.
We're getting out freebies. Yeah. Well, if those of you who are watching on YouTube can see what Tobin has in his background, but if you're listening to this podcast, we're going to let you know right now that I don't know if it's a green screen or not, but it's Tony Brown himself in a Bengals uni, and Costen has an authentic, I think he broke in somewhere and stole that from somebody, 75 Cincinnati Bengals sweater. Where did you get that from? Where did you get that?
The crazy thing is, I remember one crazy evening, I was spending a little time in the offseason with my buddy Anthony Brown, and he happened to have this sweatshirt. Okay. I happened to find it in my luggage on the way back.
Hey, I'm still looking for that sweatshirt, by the way.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I got that in 1995. I've had it ever since.
Jeez.
And I've washed it several times in hot water because it's still very clean, but it's very, very small because it's a little tight in the midsection because I'm a little bigger than I was when I stole it. But
so now those of you that are tuning in, I think it's important to know that Tony Brown at that point was probably a little bit heavier than he is right now. We're talking to him. So
I don't know. His scale's about 350 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
100 pounds heavier then. No question.
But I'd like to know, I'd like to ask a quick question.
Yeah.
How often did you get fined for being overweight when you were at the great Cincinnati Bengals?
Hey, you know what? And hey, that's a good question because I never, ever got fined. And the reason was I had to make my weight. I knew what it was. So the day that weigh-in was, you go in about 2 hours early. You get in the hot box. You ride the treadmill. You run on the treadmill. You run on the bike, get in the hot box. And there's probably about 10 of us. And I always remember it was always me and Eric Bieniemy. And then everybody else. There'd be like Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson would be in there. Keith Rucker would be in there. Yeah, we'd all be. And the funniest thing, so as an offensive lineman, your weigh-in was on Friday. So you weigh in Friday morning, and then you have to go into your meetings, your position meetings and all that. And as offensive linemen in Cincinnati, when we were in our position meetings, it'd be so early in the morning that we get these breakfast sandwiches from this mom and pop, like little breakfast place, this little diner. And I mean, you talk about, fat and just it's a heart attack in between two pieces of bread. Yeah. I mean, it's stacked with bacon, ham, eggs, cheese. I mean, they were thick,
Yeah.
So you go get your weigh-in done. and it was all water weight because you sit there and you just sweat for 2 hours.
God.
I don't know how we didn't pass out, doing that. But then after weighing, you go and you'd eat like 3 and 4 of these. It was crazy. So, and then you go out there and work out and practice and end up throwing up half of the salad. So, yeah.
I guess at least you made the weight.
that was key. That was key, making the weight.
How many weight? Was it pretty how many folks usually didn't make the weight?
Oh, there was probably usually about 4 or 5 guys. I remember Keith Rucker, big defensive lineman.
Calling him out. I hope he's listening.
Keith Rucker, because I remember, and they used to always, send him to fat camps during the off season. It was crazy. But he just never made weight. But, he was one of them cat, like same with Big Daddy. It's like they find you. Back then, I think it was like $250 a pound.
Oh, okay. $250.
So Big Daddy, Big Daddy down. Huh?
$250 a pound?
Yeah. I think it was around that back then. But, like I'm making minimum, which is, back then it was good. I'm not complaining about. But you got Big Daddy Dan Wilkerson making millions of dollars. So that 250 pounds to him, that's like about $5 to me, and I'm like,
right,
man, so he would, he didn't really, if he made it, he made it. If he didn't, he didn't, he was still going to be starting. He was still going to be on the team. He still was going to be getting his paycheck. Hey, with me, on the other hand,
you're always fighting.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I have a funny question for you. How does moving a grown man against their will apply to life?
Man. I'm telling you.
I'm telling you.
Hey, it's life is tough. You know what I mean? And you gotta. There's always obstacles that come in your way and get in your way, and you got to think and try to outsmart your opponent. It's, you can apply principles. Your football, no matter what position, you can apply principles to that position, to your life, trying to figure out, techniques. Okay, I'm going to figure out, my daily routine, figure out, my job, okay,
right.
I got this problem, that problem, and being at that level, that NFL level, everything is just fat. Guys are moving fat. Things are coming. You got to adjust on the fly. You got to. It's crazy. And then, like you said, it breaks down into. That's the beauty about football. It's a team sport. So,
right.
Individually, you got the battle, and the guy next to you being offensive tackle, guard. Whether I'm at the tackle position or the guard position.
Yeah.
Those guys. You two, you might have a battle to try to move that defensive lineman across to you to work up to that linebacker,
right.
to seal them off, to give that running back, Corey Dillon that little bit of light, so he hits that hole and gets, 5-10. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
what is one of your experiences under, playing in the NFL? Who was one of your favorite moments with your coach, and how did your coach influence you in the NFL?
I like my offensive line coach, Paul Alexander, and when I was when I was with the Cincinnati Bengals, he, in fact, he's actually the main reason I was in the league as long as I was. He actually came out to Salt Lake. When I was my senior year, took me out to dinner. We talked, and I didn't get drafted. I was a college free agent.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So on draft, the draft when the draft was going, every not the first, second round, but he was calling me up. Hey, anybody drafted yet? Okay, all right. Hey, we're gonna get you. And they ended up obviously not drafting me. But then immediately after the draft, he called me up and said, "Hey, we want to sign you. Let's work something out. I'm going to get in touch with your agent. We're going to get you on the team. We want you. I like you." And he always had my back. And he taught me a lot. And gave me my opportunity, like I said, and I think he's definitely the main reason that I was able to play as long as I did. As long as well as my work, my work ethic, and my commitment to the game and myself, and being in shape, all that stuff. But he really gave me the opportunity, and I always remember my first year in Cincinnati, and we had a training camp in a small college. It was about an hour outside north of Cincinnati on the way to Columbus. And I can't remember the name of the college. Yeah. Went too many hits to the head. But so we're practicing. And this is like my first year there. We're 2-a-days. And so we're doing one-on-one sets, O-line, D-line, pass sets, Yeah. And I go, I'm having a good day, good practice, good training camp. And, Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson, he's a beast, gosh. Number one draft pick. So he lines up, across from me, he probably thought he was going to whoop me. So, I set on him. He comes and tries to do a little move on me. And I set low. I get under him. And I just drive my feet. And I just slowly just kind of lift him. And then just plant him on his back. So the offensive line, defensive line, everyone was like, "Dang!" My coach, he was like, "Oh, man!" And so I felt good after that. But I think that right there kind of sealed my fate because my offensive line coach Paul, he was overly impressed, and we watched the films that evening, and he kept replaying it and showing it. And so he was excited. I was excited, but from then on, my training camp was great.
It takes that one moment. Takes that one moment to install confidence. At least from your story, It seems like that's pretty incredible that you're able to take, that one moment to be like, you know what? No, I do belong here. I do belong here, and I'm not in it for just like this week. I'm in it for the long haul. And that's to me, that's the beauty of like offensive linemen in general. I know there's other stories from other positions, but I just admire the heck out of offensive linemen because I feel like, the car, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, is like the whole thing about, well, the car looks pretty, like the quarterback's throwing that ball, the wide receiver, that linebacker's making that crazy tackle, whatever. But the people that are getting it done is the engine, and that's the linemen who are in there in the trenches getting it done. And to me, like that's what character, leadership, and integrity is all about on the football field. It's kind of like for me in baseball, the catcher is the one kind of orchestrating the ship, keeping the leadership going, being a vocal leader. Sometimes it's not always being a vocal leader. It's also doing stuff behind the scenes that separates you. So for me, that training camp story is just a super inspirational story that anyone tuning in can listen to that and go, you know what? Maybe I'm not there yet, but if I focus on the process and I just keep installing confidence in myself and not be normal, but be an example, be something bigger for somebody else. So to me, that's something that sticks out right away. With your cool story. I just think it's awesome. And I felt like I was there. Like you just pictured this small college training camp. And then I pummeled them. So
Big Daddy and the Little Daddy.
I didn't step over him. I should have stepped over him after, but
mic drop.
He was humble.
I got a question for you, Anthony.
What's up, Big T?
A lot of people do not know about your accident and how you had to kind of come back. And maybe you could talk about a little bit about the accident, what you had to do. It was a serious accident, and we almost lost you. Talk about your perseverance and getting back into football. And then let's move forward after you talk about that. You're All-American. Everybody knows who you are. You did some great things, and then not getting drafted, and then how you worked your way into getting your name out there so you could actually get to that training camp and have that big moment.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And you touched on it just a minute ago about the car accident. It was one car accident. Myself, it was actually my first year up at the University of Utah.
Oh,
and
wow.
myself and a couple of other guys were running over to Wendover, Nevada to do some gambling from Salt Lake City. So it was about a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
So probably about 30 minutes into the drive, the guy, one of the players driving, he wasn't paying attention. He ended up overcorrecting in the car, and the car ended up rolling. I got thrown from the car, and I don't remember any of the accident, but they had to life flight me back to Salt Lake, and so I had severe head trauma. Was in the ICU for about 3 days, and I was actually in the hospital for about 7 days total.
Oh my gosh.
But so after that, I ended up having the red shirt that first year. I had to end up redshirting that first year there at the University of Utah. Couldn't work out. Couldn't do anything. I mean, I just was there, watching practices, going to classes. That's it. And then second year, I got the go ahead and the green light, to go ahead and start working out and participate in practices and stuff like that. And then from then on, it just was, it was just work hard. And, and that's something that, TC can relate to, because both our parents, my dad was in the military, his dad was in the military, come from that kind of strict, hard work, no BS type of environment, give it, not 100%, you're going to give it 150%.
You're going to get it 100% back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I did. I went out there and, worked hard in the weight room and practicing. And it's always funny. And it's funny because I always look back and, I don't know if it's good or bad, but, knock on wood, I never suffered any real, outside of my car accident, but on the playing field or, practices, games, I never suffered any real severe injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And I never missed practice, and in the NFL, guys would, they would take practices off here and there, a little nick here, a little knack there, take a day off, ice this, ice that. But, I never did, I don't, my mind just isn't made that way to where if I was walking, if I was talking, if I was standing, moving, then I was going to be out there practicing. I was going to be out there playing, nothing was broken or torn or anything like that. And then you're all right. If you got a, nick or knack, ice it. And I just, that mindset, that's how I was in college and the same in the NFL, and in college, I remember, we carried usually about 12, 15, offensive linemen, a little more, a little less sometimes, some years. But there are always kids that, guys, offensive line that, would take practices off, missing games, missing practices. And, I just never did. I didn't even, that wasn't in my mind to miss practice or game. So,
yeah, that's that's a long time of just being like, I think that just speaks to resilience, is kind of you're just a natural born soldier, just ready to go ahead and march in there every day, no matter where you're at. You knew that your team needed you and that you needed to be there. And it was like you didn't know any other way. I think that, there's a lot of things, elements of things you could speak on to that. That car accident, though, I didn't know that story. That's incredible.
And that was the craziest thing, and like TC said, it was crazy, and I look back on it now, and I'm like, man, he said, like, and the older you get, the more it comes into perspective. Wow, you could have died. And they actually told me, they were like, man, you probably should have died, but the thing that saved me is, well, I'm sure, the man above definitely, but, just me being so big. And actually I was in really good shape because this was during the summertime. It was near the end of the summer. And that whole summer I had been up in Salt Lake working out, lifting, running. So I was actually in really good shape, physically. And they said that contributed to me, coming out of it as well as I did, so, yeah.
Wow.
So just to move forward to I had the pleasure of coming out to a lot of University of Utah games and saw how the success that you had on the field. Talk about the frustration it is, you thinking you're going to get drafted. I know we had talked about, before, you never like to talk about where you get drafted, but I always thought you'd be drafted in the first 3 or 4 rounds. Being an All-American, people saw you, big hands, big booty, good hand speed, and then not getting drafted. Like, talk about how you were feeling at that point where you went to the combine and what that was and not getting drafted.
Yeah, staying level-headed through that.
And like Tobin said, when my senior year, I didn't play in any of the senior bowls or get invited to any senior bowls, which I thought was kind of weird, but I got invited to the combine, so I went to the combine, didn't go to any senior bowls, and then ended up not getting drafted. But and this is gonna sound crazy, but when I actually started playing, when I started playing football, like I was, when I went to junior college, I just was playing football, and I just wanted to get a scholarship because I really didn't want my parents to have to pay for college. So I was like,
got it.
I need to work hard to try to get a scholarship so they can so they won't have to pay for college.
Yeah.
And it happened to Utah saw me and offered me a scholarship, so it worked out. So it was great. So when I was in college, I was playing, I love playing at Utah, and I love my coaches, I love the players. I mean, I love the people up there. I mean, it was a great time while I was there. But I never really even during my senior year, and I didn't really listen to outside noise. I didn't really think about being drafted or actually even really playing professional football. I didn't think that, because I always saw professional football players, and then they were the elite of the elite. So I was like, my mentality, my mindset wasn't like, oh man, I got to get drafted. I'm gonna get drafted. I was just kind of like, all right, I played college. It was great. I was on a good team my senior year. We did great. Okay, what's the next phase? All right, well, I got an agent. Okay, I'm gonna go to the combine. All right, well, I played pro, and then I didn't get drafted. So I was like, all right, okay, I didn't get drafted, and then. I kind of, before the draft, I kind of knew. I'm sorry about the phone, but before the draft, I kind of knew that I would probably play in the pros, but I wasn't like,
you weren't dwelling on it.
Yeah, it wasn't like I got to make it. And the reason is because I had a couple like pro workouts. I worked out with Luther Ellis, who was a first-round draft pick. And so he had a pro day, and I was pass blocking against him when the pro scouts came. And so we were working out together. Paul Alexander, the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line coach, he had came out a few times to Salt Lake. He liked me a lot, took me out, talked to me, and there was I can't remember his name, but there was an offensive line coach from Cleveland Browns, and the former head coach of Fresno, University of Fresno out there. I can't remember his name, but he had talked to me also. He liked me, so there were a couple teams that were talking to me, and they were like, hey, we like you, we like you, like you. So I was like, all right, and it is what it was. But I mean, I really wasn't, it wasn't, it wasn't really something that, I put much thought into, or really, I didn't really know the whole ins and outs of the whole draft and how it worked. And, I mean, I just, like I was sitting
just
in my
played.
Yeah. I just played. Like on draft day, I think I was in my apartment, like at the University of Utah, is just hanging out, I think I can't even remember if anyone was there with me or not, but I mean, it was, the draft came and went. And after it went, I got a call from from Paul Alexander, and he was like, hey, we want to sign you. And then I already had an agent, so I was like, all right,
let's do it.
So he talked to my agent, Neil Sports, and Neil worked everything out, called me up, told me what was going on, and that was it. Told me when I needed to be in Cincinnati and all that good stuff, and that's it from there. Yeah,
that's incredible. We're closing in on time, but before we sign off, the one thing that sticks to my mind through your story was something we've actually mentioned on previous podcasts, is keeping a growth mindset and process over outcome. So not just dwelling on the result, not dwelling, I'm going to just try to go to the draft. I want to get drafted by this team or this team, or I don't know. It's like you didn't even know the ins and outs of it, but what you did really well is you're like, I controlled my game, and I kind of let the journey pave the way for what I was destined to do at that next level.
Right.
So I think that just is a testament to being a top-notch offensive lineman. It's like, it's all about team, and it's all about just putting your best foot forward and digging in the trenches and getting the work done like a true soldier. So
it
doesn't hurt almost bench pressing 500 pounds either, but whatever works.
Hey, that's why I got 2 torn rotator cuffs now, man.
Oh, crud.
Hey, but no, and just touching on what you just said, it's like, I mean, control what you can control. And that's what, in a sense, that's what I did. I control what I control. I worked out, I busted my butt, played hard, stayed on the field, stayed on the practice field, was able to stay in the gym, and I controlled what I controlled, and it worked out for me. I got, 5 years in the NFL. So,
I mean, just tearing your body up like that, but still finding a way to keep stable, like not just like stagnant and just getting better through the process too. I think that's why it's so important to focus controlling what you can control.
Yeah.
Before we leave, the last question I have is kind of a fun one. All right. So you're going in, for baseball, right? Guys go up to bat, they have a walkout song. Okay. So my question would be, you got TC next to you playing right guard, ready to go. You guys are about to take the field. What song are you bumping when you come out? Fireworks, pandemonium, smoke and mirrors.
Oh, man.
I got one I think he would pick, but let's see what he picks.
Oh, okay. He seems like he's on edge. He's too focused.
That's a good one. Man, I know when I played in Cincinnati, they always used to play. Well, whenever we come out, it was always "Welcome to the Jungle."
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So but I don't know. That's a good one. You know what? I wasn't ready for that one.
That's okay. That means maybe next time, if we get to do this again at some point down the road, which I hope we do, I would maybe we'll just start out hot with that question.
That'd be a good one.
So Tobin, what was your suggestion?
My suggestion would be Tag team, whoop, there it is.
Oh, my. I feel like
Anthony's favorite song when we were in the younger days.
Oh, my. While he was waiting for the call in his apartment in Utah.
That was on a Saturday night or on a Saturday night at the place called the Studebaker.
Studebaker, baby.
Whoop, there it is.
Yeah, man. That was our spot, boy. That was our spot.
That was definitely our spot.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time that we have for this episode. On behalf of myself, co-host Tobin Costen.
Yeah.
And of course, our notable guest with us today, Tony Brown. Tony, thank you again so much for coming on. And I guess I would say, do you have any last remaining words or advice? But I think that we're just going to leave it right there. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, whoop, whoop, man. I appreciate y'all having me. It was just fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise. And we hope to have you on again, and we look forward to seeing how this one goes out to the world. I can't wait to folks to hear the inside scoop of being an offensive lineman. So once again, thank you all for tuning in. If you like what you heard, be sure to rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of your other favorite platforms. You can even Google this podcast now. We're stepping it up a little bit.
Yeah,
and as always, there's a video podcast version on YouTube, so be sure to like, subscribe, and throw on the notifications so you know exactly when the next Costen and Hammer Productions video drops. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Learning the Ropes. We'll see you next time.
Deuces.
Stop recording. Boom. Hey, thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you know exactly when the next Costen and Hammer Productions video drops!